Hello, everybody. This is a Lamley showcase of sorts. More of a chat, conversation, a bit of a showcase. I'm going to be showing a lot of Datsun 510 wagons today, that is for sure. But I've been wondering, and I definitely want your thoughts in the comments below. This is kind of the nature of this video. Is it time for Hot Wheels to put this model to bed, the Datsun 510 wagon? I have two reasons for that. I want to walk through that, and we're going to be doing some showcasing of the Datsun 510 wagon. This whole thought was spurred by this model. Earlier this week, I showcased the first mix of 2026, the first car culture mix of 2026, Japan Historics 5, obviously the fifth mix of Japan Historics. And they're doing something different this year to celebrate 10 years, as we've talked about. They will be taking iconic models from the last 10 years of car culture and inserting them as chases in each mix. And they're not chase versions of cars in the normal mix. They are iconic castings done in this gold chase version. We're not going to comment on this. I've seen a lot of thoughts on the Japan Historics video, and you definitely should. I have thoughts about these gold chases versus the normal black chases. Topic for another time. But appropriately, the first model that they chose of these iconic car culture models was the Datsun 510 wagon. It was in the very first mix of, as we showcased, of Japan Historics, very first mix of car culture, and was probably the most sought after model of that mix, the Advan version in 2013 or 2016, I'm sorry. And that was, the model was at the peak of its powers at that point. You know, it was just on the secondary market. Some of the older versions were going for massive amounts of money. That's calmed down a little bit. But it just seems to me, I think for some good reasons and for maybe some, I don't want to say bad reasons, but maybe this casting has run its course. Now, my first point here is, you're probably asking, does Hot Wheels retire castings? They definitely do. Sometimes the tools wear out and they don't update them. You know, sometimes they just kind of look a little bit too dated and they move on. They just don't have space for them. Maybe they technically have the tool, but it's so deep in the archives that we'll never see it again. But there are models like this one, the 510 wagon, 510 coupe, 67 Camaro for sure, drag bust, that tend to be on that iconic level. 55 Bel Air Gasser is one of the more recent ones too. R34 Skyline. I could go on and on and on. There's a more recent line of iconic castings, and then of course there's a lot of the classic ones as well. But I kind of think it would be cool for Hot Wheels. Now, in a positive way, it would be kind of like, one of my reasons I'm asking is, this is such an iconic casting, it would be kind of a cool thing for Hot Wheels to say, here's the final version, this is the one I would have chose, of this iconic casting. You're going to see versions, you might even see a new Datsun 510 wagon and a different version. But we're going to put this casting to bed. I think it would be cool for collectors, new and old, to pursue a complete collection of these if they'd like to. Like, you know, all versions, variations, hard to find, more expensive. I think that would be fine at kind of a finite level. And I think it's a casting that deserves that kind of thing and not just kind of like fade away like an athlete that, you know, stuck around too long or something like that, as this becomes more and more dated. The vibe on this casting has definitely died down a bit. You could judge it by secondary market prices. They have definitely calmed down. There was a point where some models were even approaching $1,000. That is now closer to $500 on the most sought after models. But ultimately too, you just see buzz. These are not, this casting is not as buzzy, quote unquote, as it used to be. And so I was like, man, maybe it's time, if Hot Wheels were to do something like that, to just say, hey, we're moving on. The other thing is, yeah, I think on the more negative side, I think it's a little dated. I think if you look at, well, we'll get to this. This casting, we'll get to the history of this casting and walk through it a little bit. And I'll kind of show that I think it has had a wonderful life. It's kind of been everywhere it's needed to be, with one major exception. So let's walk through it. There's your first version. I actually really like, this is from, I bought this at TJ Maxx in St. George, Utah for $2.99, which is kind of funny. And I've always loved having this price tag. This is one of the only carded versions I have. I have the loose version too. But this one, and I've told this story before, it's kind of an insane story. This casting not only being super cool, but it kind of has a perfect storm of situations where it was released, like, this is a Junimai design based on his wagon. And Junimai, designed for Hot Wheels, is now the head of Kaido House, runs Kaido House, designs for Kaido House, kind of is Kaido House. And he based this casting, which was such a surprise at the time, on the Datsun 510 wagon that he owned. It was this color. It did have red rims. Didn't have these 5 spokes. That's what they had at the time. He unveiled this casting at the Japanese Classic Car Show back in 2011 or 12, something like that. And then it was set to be released after that in Boulevard, the original Boulevard. Of course, if you know the story, it was released. It hit some hobby stores. It hit a few Walmarts, then vanished. And then for months and months and months, as people were trying to find it, it eventually just popped up at secondary stores. Walmart at the time just had said no more with Boulevard. And so this model, Porsche 993 is another one, showed up at TJ Maxx's and Shopko's. And if you were lucky, you could find them for this price. Nonetheless, because it was so hard to find, because it was a cool casting, because JDM, the JDM scene was just kind of growing at the time, this kind of took on a life of its own. And I think it's kind of that perfect storm that really made this such a sought-after casting. I mean, people loved it, of course, but there was just other elements to it that just made it something that everyone wanted. And then, of course, as that legend and lore built up on this casting, Hot Wheels moved it over to the basic range and debuted it in the basic range as a super treasure hunt. And this remains one of the most sought-after super treasure hunts ever. Really, I think it's still one that commands a lot of money. Maybe not as much as it used to. I have 2 because there's a variation on this one. There is the smooth grill and the textured grill. And nonetheless, it as that belt, so it's like you've got hard to find kind of like legend belt on this Boulevard. Then it's a super treasure hunt. And then it was just off to the races. This was a casting that as it would be released, people wanted it. And so I want to walk through. I do not have everything. I used to be a total completist of this casting. I had everything, including wheel variations, everything I could find. And then I got to a point where I just was like, I can't keep doing this. I just can't go on. I'll keep premium and a few other significant ones and go from there. So I'm going to push this back. So I don't have a lot of the basics anymore. In fact, I think I pulled out. This is my collection of basics. The version of the Super Treasure Hunt, the basic version. These 2, that was a 5-pack model. This was a store Zamac. And then I have dispersed among my collection, I have the Walmart Zamac. I have 3 Momo models. It was a Momo store exclusive. I didn't pull that one out. In 3 different colors. Well, it was Momo red, and then yellow, store exclusive Kroger, and then black. So I have them kind of mixed around, and a few others, but a lot of the basic versions I just didn't keep. And but I have these, and I have the Super Treasure Hunts carded and loose, and let's just go through it. So first thing I want to do is say my first argument: has it been everywhere it's needed to? Has it run its course in terms of being an iconic model, showing up in places? That's my first answer is yes. It has been in the original Boulevard as the iconic first version. It has been in New Boulevard in this yellow and black version to match the special coupe. It has been, move this down a little bit. Has it been in Car Culture? Yes, it has. As a matter of fact, I mean, we already know it was in the Japan Historics. There's that version in Advan livery. It has also been, and more about this one in a little bit, it has been in the premiere. So it was in the very first Japan Historics and Car Culture mix. It was also in the very first premium set. And this was almost a sequel to June's first issue. June didn't have real JDM rims to work with, so his first issue had these more muscle type 5 spokes, but done in red with chrome lips. It's still a very cool car. And then got to do a little bit more of an update. Put it on 4 spokes, a little bit more Japanese, and then have some of that original deco that he put when he had this model, when he debuted the casting itself. It was with the car with this deco on it at the Japanese Nostalgic Car booth at JCCS. So this is kind of a historic piece as well, with the Kaido House and the number 0 deco that he had. So it has been in Car Culture in the diorama set. Has not been in Team Transport, but it did show up again in the diorama sets recently in BRE livery. So there you got kind of an iconic livery as well. So it's been in Momo. It's been in Advan. It's been in Car Culture. So like decos and lines. The next question, has it been a super treasure hunt? Well, of course we know it's been a super treasure hunt because it's right there. And then of course and I have the loose version here. You can see there's the zeros showing up. This one was, that deco that we saw on the green one was done as a super treasure hunt in red, in Spectre Flame red. There was a regular version of this one. We had these Watanabe rims that were used perfectly here. They were, I think, originally developed as like Trans Am rims, but they work as Watanabes, obviously, because they look exactly like Watanabes. So this super treasure hunt was great. And then, yeah, what, a year or two ago, it was a super treasure. And again, in 4 spokes, in Leeway's kind of awesome lightning, kind of like hot pink deco. This one was a very cool, unique piece as well. So it's been a super treasure hunt twice. You can also sandwich in between those this like super treasure hunt sequel. So it's been a special edition at Legends. They tend to take super treasure hunts and make like little sequel versions out of them. So now you have it as that. I didn't even mention Car Culture. You have 1, 2, 3. Of course, the Chase is 4. So it's been in Car Culture 4 times. It's been in Boulevard twice. It's been a super treasure hunt twice. It's been a special edition with Legends once. It's been in 5 packs. It's been a store exclusive with Kroger. It's been a store exclusive with Walmart. It has not been a red edition, strangely. Another question. Has it been a convention car? Oh, yeah. It definitely has been a convention car. We can have to move the camera down a little bit more. This, at the time, mine's kind of a messed up error. You can see the window's kind of weird. This one launched a little 3-car set that the convention folks put out over several years. I think this was the very first version of the Datsun Wagon in a BRE-inspired design, and was in the convention. This one at one point was the model that was fetching close to $1,000. It's now closer to $450 from what I've checked on eBay. I definitely had to look. This is my loose version. I do not have a carded version. I've just opened it back in the day when it first came out, and I've enjoyed having it since. Donned those 5 spokes again for a little bit later on. I don't know what year this one was, but it was in the convention as well. Kind of a bland version of this casting. Haven't been of that, you know, it didn't look great. But it's also been, if I remember correctly, I think those are the 2. Maybe I'm missing one. I don't think so. It was also at the Japan convention in this fabulous Moon Eyes deco. So you can check that off. Moon Eyes deco along with Advan and BRE. So now you get Moon Eyes, which that one looks good with the 5 spokes. This is the one that they released like in 2 different directions. If you know, they do that at the Japanese convention. And then this one also solves 2 questions. This is a 4th convention model, the Salão convention. This was Brazil and Mexico at the time. They don't do that anymore. But I can move this just slightly up again. But this was, I don't even think it was ever even put in at the event or something like that. But Salão Diecast or Salão Hot Wheels. I don't want to, we have the Salão convention now that in Brazil. But this one was done for Hot Wheels. And this also is, I think, the only one that's ever been in an acrylic case. So the other question, has it been in an acrylic case? Yes, it has. 4 spokes here, Hot Wheels Racing deco, kind of looks very similar to that one. So you can put that one as well in our little collection of Datsun 510 wagons and answering these questions. We mentioned special editions. So Legends, this one isn't a special edition. It was a retail premium version, but it also celebrated 50 years of Hot Wheels back in 2018. This is one of the cleaner versions of this casting with the center stripe and the Datsun deco on the side. So you could put that one there. I thought I had it open. I probably do somewhere. I couldn't find it. But I do have that carded version, so I thought I would include that. And then any other questions? Let's see. I'm pulling up store exclusive. Yes. It's also been a Kmart car, so I could pull this out. So there's the Kmart version. Put that one there. I don't have the Momos with me. We said it's been a Zamac, I think once, and then in a Zamac set. Has it been an NFT? Hasn't been a Hot Wheels ID. Definitely could have been at the time, because Hot Wheels ID was at the time when this was going crazy. But it was an NFT. Anton did this design, which I think a lot of folks dug. And released, what, year ago or so. So it has been an NFT exclusive, premium, of course, metal chassis. And I think if we're looking at there, I think that is I think that's all the premium, right? Am I missing anything? Convention, Boulevard, hasn't been in Fast and Furious, of course. Diorama sets, hasn't been in Team Transport. So this is a pretty decent run. We're not even talking about the 5-spoke versions. We're not even talking, or 5-pack versions. We're not even talking about the mystery models. It's been a mystery model twice. We're not even talking about the other basic issues. I mean, it's been around. I don't know how many issues. I guess you could go online and kind of count how many models there have been, how many releases of the Datsun 510 wagon. But yeah, it just seems great. The only thing it hasn't been a part of, and this might be the place if they ever were going to retire it, if it was a thing, you know what we're missing? Retire it in RLC. Put it in an absolute premium Spectre Flame. We've seen the 510 Coupe way too many times in RLC. And I could do another video on retiring the 510 Coupe. But I think the 510 wagon is so unique to Hot Wheels and being a thing for Hot Wheels that I almost think that the 510 Coupe still has a little bit of life in it. It could be retooled with smaller wheels, of course, and some other things. But and so could this one. But this casting as is, I just think it would be kind of cool to retire it. Let me show you, and I've actually done this before, but let me show you one of the reasons I think it's kind of played out a little bit too. One is we're just not as interested, of course, like I said. But the other thing is this casting was at a time when was done by Junimai at a time when these castings just you had to start with the size of the wheels and then go to, let me see if I can. You had to start with the size of the wheels and then you had to build from there. So they might have had smaller wheels back, you know, like if this were designed now, there might have been smaller wheels. And we know this too, because would take this wagon. This is the Skyline van. Obviously it's not a Datsun wagon, but if you take this and compare it, and I think it's fair to do because this is also a Jun Amai design. And if you were to look at this and you would say, this is what Jun had to work with, and he made a very cool casting. Obviously, it was one of the nice details were the side mirrors on this one. But Jun was able to take on what he would do later on with the Skyline van and create more trim, more brakes. You notice that the grille here is part of maybe the interior. It's its own separate piece. This one is it's just embossed and has to be detailed and tampoed. This one is tampoed, of course, but you can see that chrome brake is pretty great with the front chin. The wheels are smaller. It really gives this car, the Skyline van, a much, much better proportion. And this one just looks way more detailed, right? Hot Wheels are Hot Wheels, but this one looks like a newer, more modern Hot Wheels. And this one starts to look a little bit more like a remedial sketch. I'm not ripping on it. I love this casting. And Lamley kind of formed itself on showcasing this casting. But it just does look a little bit dated compared to a lot of the other JDM castings that have been coming out. And so that's number one. You can also, I guess another comparison is just look at the Advan wagons. Look at the same wagon just done in Advan and you just see the same thing. Even with the more appropriate wheels, it still just doesn't compare to the Skyline van in terms of details. And I think that's fair because Jun did both. And then of course, you could just go to Kaido House and see this is Jun. Kaido House is really I think Jun's realization of his vision, right? In terms of design, the aesthetic, the quality and everything else. Kaido House is, working with Mini GT, and I have never opened this one, so I'll do it. Is really Jun's realization of how he likes to do diecast. And so you could say he's tackled the wagon how he's wanted to. He had his first version Hot Wheels. It's already there. It's done. It's had its run. And now here is this isn't there. You could go back to the original that he did, but he has been doing the wagon, not only the casting, but the vision. This is even Spectre Flame because this could be RLC. An RLC Kaido House collaboration. Look at this. Look at the paint on this. You can't call it Spectre Flame. It's not Hot Wheels, but boy, it sure is close. Didn't even realize that when I opened this. It kind of works, huh? but an absolute stunner. And yeah, look at the wheels, look at the barrels, look at the stance, look at everything. And this is June's opening hood, of course, with the engine as he wants it. This is June's realization of the Datsun 510 wagon. It doesn't take anything away from the original. I'm sure he has such a soft spot for the original from Hot Wheels, but yeah, he's moved on. The castings have kind of moved on with the Skyline van, kind of that element, and where JDM is with Hot Wheels and things like that. And it's just such a great historic cool casting. I think it'd be cool to retire. So I want to know what you guys think. Do you agree with me on this? It's like almost like equal parts. Like, I think it's almost like I just want to put it to bed. I want to give it a respectful burial. I don't want it to be released in, like, I mean, it is such a fish out of water in the Japanese historics mix. When you have the new Celica and you have like all these other cool castings that are in there that really do vibe on how JDM looks these days. And you get this Datsun 510 wagon that just, I don't know, just looks a little out of place. Cool as a chase and definitely collectible, but it's just not holding up, I think, with other JDM castings. And I think it's just, we need to give it its respectful, proper burial is kind of where I'm at, because I love this casting so much. So, what would be now so to finish off this video and my little rant here, and I want to, or my little just kind of like, I don't know, ramble, probably what it is. If you were to collect, if there was one car you could collect from the Datsun wagon family, let's get these out of there. We're talking Hot Wheels here. We're talking Hot Wheels 510. So I guess the question would be, what would be the most iconic Datsun wagon? If that were to happen, and we were still going to go back and say, if you could have one casting or two or three, which ones would it be? There are two that are obvious to me. Like, I don't even think it's arguable the two most iconic Datsun 510 wagons. And that starts with the original. This has so much significance historically in terms of like ushering in the JDM era, making Junimai kind of a legendary designer. I think June has a lot of his success with Kaido House. He could trace back to this. It just kind of created a whole new vibe with Hot Wheels, moved it in a new direction. It really is just significantly, this is one of the most significant Hot Wheels models in the last maybe 25 years. And that is not an exaggeration. I really do think it is. Just what it did. The 510 Coupe before this was a peg warmer. And JDM models were peg warmers, the Corolla, everything else. The second one, I would say the other part of that narrative is the Super Treasure Hunt. I think this Super Treasure Hunt also kind of did a thing. Super treasure hunts were always a thing, treasure hunts before that, but this one was just on a different level. And also I just think kind of changed Super Treasure Hunts a little bit too. And in terms of like how they, I don't know, it not only did significant things for JDM, for Hot Wheels, for Super Treasure Hunts, it was just a very, very cool model as well. It's the third model that I'm still struggling with. Like, which is the third most iconic? I actually asked some people on it. So if we say it's the Boulevard, we'll put that over there, and then the Super Treasure Hunt, we'll put that over here. Which others? Well, there's an argument for sure for the Japan Historics model, because that one kind of helped launch car culture, and car culture is such a huge deal, as we know. So that would be a consideration for the third. You could say June's improved deco, like the more realistic deco and wheels on his original 510 wagon in this deco would be good. That would be a viable option, I think. The other one that I think would be worth consideration, to be honest, would be that one, the Chase, from the new Japan Historics. It would definitely be if they retired the wagon after this model, for sure. It would easily be the most significant, because it would be the first and the last in kind of very significant releases. I think if I had to choose, you could go with the other Super Treasure. I think, some of these convention models, like I think some would consider this one to be the most iconic, or the third most iconic. I just don't think you can argue, but I think I'd say that one. Just because the Datsun 510 wagon, its role in how we collect now. In fact, let's just do this. In how we collect now, how it's shaped how we collect, whether you were collecting at the time or not. It's right there. The Boulevard, the Japan Historics, and the Super Treasure Hunt. How we collect, what we talk about hype, what we love, what we hate, what makes us fight. That's a lot of it right there are those three models. So I would say those are your three most significant. From premium to the original to the Super Treasure Hunt. Our hype-based collector world, for a million reasons, can really just be boiled down to those three castings or those three releases right there. You guys tell me what you think. I want to know your view. Would you like to see this? Would you like to see it go out in a in all its glory? And now we can just kind of say there's a finite collection of Datsun 510s, or do you want to see it keep going? See these other versions. Haven't been very many clean versions of this one, like actual, just like, I think that's pretty much the only one. Everything else has been, you know, in some sort of racing or other kind of detailed livery or whatever. Maybe you want more of that. Maybe you want to see an RLC version. For me, I'd love to see it just put to bed now, put in the archives, and just fade away as the legend that it is. You guys tell me what you think. Thanks, everybody. Bye.